Welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle DeTeach, or Coach Danny D, and I help women to create luxury brands by creating processes and tightening their branding. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease and enjoy your life. My happy space is spending as much time as humanly possible in my pajamas, and I want to help others to find their happy space while still running profitable businesses. So get comfortable and let's dig in. Hello and welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I am your host, Coach Danny D. Always here helping women, professionals, entrepreneurs to find that space of work-life harmony and have successful businesses while they do it. I am so excited today. We have Shadana Chaney here. She is going to be talking to us about um, knowing you belong and walking in your purpose. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, but I just want to just dive in because this topic is so, it's rich. It's rich. It's absolutely rich. Y'all get ready. Okay, so Shadana, excuse me, stumbling over my own thoughts. Shadana Chaney is a confidence and career coach who partners with colleges to help students build their confidence and develop soft skills needed to integrate and succeed in the workplace. In addition, Shadana has a prayer and fasting ministry that she leads each month to help believers deepen their relationship with Jesus. All great things. Can't wait to really dive in. And I know some of y'all may have heard, career coach, and some of you are on that career path, but understand everything that she's going to say today equally applies to entrepreneurs and that journey as well. Those skills are transferable skills. So welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. And I just from our previous conversation, I know we're about to, make some magic. So I want to start by asking you, how did you start your entrepreneurial journey? Because that story always is, I find so much in how we got here. So how did you start?
So my entrepreneur journey started a long time ago. I always had that entrepreneur spirit because my dad was an entrepreneur growing up, even in the 90s. So I always seen entrepreneurship. And so it started at the age of 23, right when I had graduated from college. I had a fire burning in me. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I started off in real estate, and real estate was really hard. I didn't have any money. I was broke. I wasn't really working. I had just graduated from college, so could never really get that off the ground. So I started working full time. And in my full-time job, I was working for the city of Houston at the time. And I would always get compliments about what I was wearing. It was like, I would love for you to style me. You look very fashionable. So me, young, I was like, well, maybe I have a career in fashion. So no degree in fashion, no background. I decided to become a stylist. And then that morphed into me becoming a fashion designer, kind of self-taught, took some classes, and then I just started from there.
Wow. Wow. It's interesting, one, having that exposure. So like a lot of us, some of us have had that exposure to entrepreneurship, some of us haven't. But knowing that the listeners that are entrepreneurs, you are exposing your children
Right, that's true.
to, seeing, because I like watching it with my son, because I'm like, my husband's an engineer, he's looking to be an engineer, but I can tell he's going to end up doing something different because he's been exposed to entrepreneurship. Like he's not, going to stay inside the box. That's just, I see
Yeah,
his creative side as well. So
that's true. And that's funny that you say that because adults do have an influence on their kids. Like I was raised by a village. So my parents raised me, but my grandmother helped out. I had aunts and uncles, and most of the women in my family were nurses. So I said that I wanted to be a nurse. And then when I got to college, I was like, I don't know if this was really for me. And then I remembered that entrepreneur spirit I had from watching my dad grow up. So what you do around your kids actually matters because they're watching you.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely watching. And I think just like you said, that village, giving them that greater influence.
Yes,
And and that goes the same for us as adults. We need a village as well, because
exactly.
um some things we may not have been exposed to. So, I know you're going to talk about career development. A lot of people went straight into
Hmm.
entrepreneurship. So they may not have been exposed to that side of things, because that wasn't the norm. So we as adults have to nurture that village as well and make sure that we are growing and learning how to
Hmm.
take something from this, place and bring it into our space.
And I'll share something just to piggyback off of what you said before your next question. Like you said, as entrepreneurs, we need a village because when you're an entrepreneur, you're in such a giving field. Like I'm in coaching and career development. So I'm constantly empowering and pouring into people, but I need my cup to be poured into as well. So that's something that I realized that, God showed me like you need to be poured into as well. And I'm faith based, as you know. And the more I prayed over my business, the more God sent those destiny helpers, those people that can pray for me because it was so important. Because you would be so empty. You know what I mean? You're constantly giving, 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 whether you're service based or product based, you're doing this, you're doing that, but you need that village to pour into you no matter what that looks like.
Oh, and I totally agree. And I'm glad that you shared that. I totally
Yeah.
agree with that. And I do agree, like you said, I tell people that you believe whatever you want to believe, but I believe in God. That's
Yeah.
just it is,
Right.
it is
Right.
what it is, no
Mhm.
judgment. But I know that, like you said, when you put out to him what's needed, he already knows. But when
You
you
already.
open
Hmm.
yourself to it, you start to meet those people. Because I have been in that space where it's like, so I'm the only giver around here, like
Yeah. Right.
and so it's like I didn't fulfill everybody else, and then I'm sitting up here like, Lord, can you pick me up off the floor because
Hmm.
I've given. And
Yeah.
but when you open yourself up, you start to meet different people, and you start to
Hmm.
meet people where you can pour into each other.
Hmm.
Like I know, they talk about romantic relationships being equally yoked, but you need that in your friendships, you
That's
need that in
true.
your
Friendships.
partnerships, if you have a
Mhm.
business, you need that everywhere.
Relationships are relationships no matter what type it is.
Right.
And you talked about, okay, I'm always giving, but I need people to pour into me. And you was talking about, you mentioned something about like praying. And it makes me, it goes back to something that I got a revelation on is heaven is voice activated, right? So you
I
tell
love
God
that.
what you need and he's going to send it down. And that's why the Bible says the power of the tongue speak life and death. So when you speak life into your situation and tell God, this is what I need to make happen, God is going to send those things down and those resources to help you.
And I love that. And this is going to be a great segue into the next question. I caution people when I hear people speak negatively over themselves or their businesses, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the situation is, because words matter. And
It
you if
does.
you're saying it, you believe
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
And we have to switch that and realize, stop saying that, because sometimes you don't even mean it when you say it.
Don't
You
mean
just
it, but you
It's
say it. Yeah.
reflexive, and you just say it, because when everybody's talking about their job and, oh girl, I can't stand my job, you might like your job and you
Right.
still
Mhm,
just like, girl, I know, like, no, don't speak that over your situation. But that brings me to, we had a really rich conversation around confidence,
mhm.
and, looking at confidence beyond that surface. So how would you define true confidence?
Confidence is something that we just talked about. Uh, Affirmations, like speaking empowerment into yourself. And that's something that I teach my clients all the time. You have to speak those affirmations over your life. In 2018, I made a list of affirmations. I put them by my bed, I put them in my phone, and I was speaking them every day. I am beautiful. I am kind. I am worthy. I am unique. I am made for a purpose on purpose, right? And even though no other people may have been speaking that into my life, I was speaking it into myself. Because one thing I've learned in this, my background is also psychology, and I'll share a little bit about that. Sometimes we don't always have that support system. You're lucky or blessed if you do, but everybody don't have parents or cousins or siblings pouring into them. So you have to pour into yourself. And sometimes you have to go after a dream that only you can see, right? But that starts with how you speak and respond to yourself. So when I made the decision in 2018 to start speaking affirmations over my life, it shifted. The way I see things shifted, my environment shifted, my friends shifted, like things just started coming. And then one other thing I'll share is I'm being faith-based. I started diving into the word of God because God was saying in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, Shadana declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. So when I started diving into scripture, taking it out and putting my name in it so that it could speak to me, I started seeing those changes.
I love that. I love just every piece of that because
Yeah,
one, I just personally feel like, when people hear that word confidence, they think about, like some exterior things,
right, right.
but confidence really is something that starts within.
Thing.
And, I found for myself that I have become more internally confident
Mm-hmm,
the harder that I lean on God.
mm-hmm.
Like, that's just
Yeah.
100%. Like, because my thing is this, like some of the things that we say to ourselves sometimes,
Mm-hmm,
we're in spaces and we feel like we don't belong there, right? And we are, in a room and we look around the room and we start sizing up everybody in the room. And, well, I don't belong in this room because, they got this, that, I'm was at a networking event this week and a lady said she was a glass blower and she said, well, I usually don't lead with that because I'm sitting here talking to doctors and lawyers and I say I'm a glass blower. I said, ma'am, I'm a balloon decor artist, so I understand what you're saying. People give you that look like, okay. But for me, when I initially started networking before, at the beginning of my business, I would feel uncomfortable. But now I feel like, okay, you cannot qualify me more than God. And so if God said I belong in the room, I belong in the room.
Right.
And so that's the thing that brings me confidence. Or if God said that I'm qualified for whatever it is, who can unqualify me?
Yep.
And, a lot of times we keep going for a further certification or this or that. And it's nothing wrong. I love education. I want to learn something every single day of my life. But, do it for, because you want to do it, not because you think that you need that as validation
Mm-hmm.
for what you need to do. Cause they got some people that's out there that's doing the same thing and they have not cracked the book. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to learn how to make sure that when we're enhancing, I think that it's not coming from a place of insecurity as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to
Mm-hmm.
advancement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback off of what you said something that was so important. Our confidence comes from God. It comes from within, but it comes from God. I have to be transparent with you. A few years ago, being in business is shaky, it's up and down. We experienced a pandemic. Everybody business was like, okay, what is going on?
What's going to happen next? Yes.
I decided to dedicate my business to God. I wasn't really making no money. I was sad. I was feeling low. I was depressed. I was like, God, I give it to you. You got to do this. And doing that, I dedicated my faith to God. So that means I had to fully trust Him. When I tell you, when I did that, I became so confident in who I was and whose I was that I just could not believe it. I grew up with a poverty mindset. Like we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. I lived in a hood, right? Grew up with a poverty mindset. So it was a lot of rooms that I didn't believe that I belonged in. it was a lot of people that I conversed with. And I'm gonna be transparent. Growing up in New Orleans when I was younger, I always felt like white people and black people were separate. I always felt the race relations there, the superiority. So never felt comfortable talking to them. I now feel more comfortable in rooms with different races. I can spark up a conversation. I know who I am. I know that I belong in that room, but that only came from my confidence in God. Like it was only the Holy Spirit that lives inside of me that can allow me to be as bold as I am. So I,
Yeah.
I love that you share that. So many people don't understand your confidence comes from God. When
Right.
you believe in him, when you put your faith in him, he gonna order your steps. That's what the Bible say. He gonna order your
Absolutely.
steps. He's gonna give you clarity over what you need to do, who you need to speak with. He's gonna send those destiny helpers for people that need to be involved in your business or help you out in some sort of capacity. So I'm just glad you shared that because it's so important and so many more people need to know that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, when you said that, it brought me to a particular moment in time that I can clearly remember a shift, a mindset
Mhm.
shift,
Yeah.
where, walked into this networking event, and I had been to events hosted by this same group before. And it was the first time, again, like you said, like post heavily leaning into God, that I was walking into an event, and I walked into that event different.
Mm.
And I'm sharing that because a lot of times we, kind of to what you spoke about, a lot of times we have, preconceived notions. And how I've explained it to some of my clients, sometimes the energy that you feel in a room, you brought to the room.
That's powerful. That's very powerful.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you're feeling insecure. So you feel like everybody is looking down on you. You feel
Hmm.
like because you came in there carrying
Hmm.
that insecurity. But when we sit in silence, and we both Christians, when we sit with God, I mean, you might sit with somebody else. That's, again, none of my business. But when we sit in silence and we sit with God, and we let him speak to us and order those steps, we enter space differently. And I challenge y'all all to give it a try, and go somewhere that before you felt uncomfortable, and see how it shifts
Hmm.
when you come in with that internal confidence. Because, not to say that they don't have people who look down their nose, those people exist, but it's probably not as many people as you thought.
Hmm.
It's probably not as in many situations as you thought. But because you had that block in your mind, that was the only way you were gonna see it. So, like you spoke before about God sending those helpers, they might already be around you,
Around. Hmm.
but you have not entered a space to be receptive to receive them, until you work on that internal confidence.
That's powerful. I have two things to say listening to you talk. The Bible said the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But God have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. If the enemy can kill, steal, and destroy your mind, he got you and
Right.
put those negative thoughts into you,
Yes.
right? And then you talked about um your faith in God. Like when you walked into that room another time, something shifted. It's like when you lean into Christ, you have a perspective shift, right? And
Yes.
when you change your mind, you modify your behaviors. So you modified your behaviors and how you walked into that room. You was more confidently, you walked with your head held high, you had more positive energy, and you was ready to network, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I walked out of that room with a new client and a new in a
Mhm.
podcast guest. And
Yes, I love that.
but it was just,
Mhm.
again, switching. um One, I think we have to own where we are.
That's true.
I saw something, and I'm probably gonna butcher how it was said, but basically they were saying that God can't help you in your fakeness
It's true.
until you want to identify where you truly are. He can't help you.
He can't help you. That's
Go
like that
ahead.
saying, fake it till you make it. We're
Yes,
constantly teaching people that, but that's not realistic. We should stop telling people to fake it until you make it. Because it's creating all of these barriers, and we can't get through to places and people that we want to because we faking it. Like we really got it going on, but we don't.
right. And you can't get the help that you need, but
Right,
also you're not going to connect to people because people feel that fakeness. You know what I'm saying?
right,
You connect to people, it's not going to be the right people. Let me just say it like that. Those people that can pour into you, they're not going to show up because you're not showing up. You're not showing up as yourself.
right.
You're showing up as someone else. And so that for me is like, you have to get to that place where you have to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And that's one of them ones that people don't want to.
They don't want to do. And I'll just share one other thing really quickly. A part of confidence is authenticity, right?
Yes,
So if you showing up
absolutely.
as someone else, you're not confident. So a part of being confident is being authentic and being who you are.
Absolutely. And this actually is one of the questions that I have for you is how can we show up both professionally but also maintain our identity and authenticity? Because sometimes people look at professional as being this one very defined thing.
Mhm. I believe each person defines what professionalism is. There is a standard, but I think the number one standard is authenticity. And I remember when I started in the workplace, it was a certain look that you had to have. You had to have straight hair, your look had to be, your makeup had to be modest. It was very minimalistic. And natural hair, it was kind of on the growth. It wasn't as
Mhm.
popular in the workplace. And I had my hair straight every week. I used to dress up in Banana Republic. I used to I made sure that I was professional how my parents taught me and what I seen in the media. But as I started to become more authentic and become who I was, I started to embrace who I was.
Mhm.
And I will never forget, after working about maybe 2, 3 years in a workplace, I did the big chop. And that wasn't seen as beautiful. Like I went completely natural. And my parents gave me not hell, but they gave me a hard time for a minute, especially my mother, because she wasn't used to seeing that.
Your hair
But
is your
as
glory and all that jazz.
yeah,
I've been there. That's why I'm saying it. Go ahead.
but it was like when I cut my hair off and went natural, I felt a complete freedom that I had never felt in my lifetime. And I continued to get the slurs and people talk about me and why she wear her hair like that. But that only boosted my confidence more, and that only made me want to, wear my hair more. And I think that's where the confidence started and the authenticity started. Now, I will say in terms of professionalism, there is a standard in terms of conservatism. I
Mhm.
do have an HR background. I've interviewed so many different people. I'm gonna be transparent, so many different minorities, black and brown, and they don't always show up to interviews professional. Like I've seen jeans, I've seen inappropriate attire. Professionalism does have a standard to a certain extent. You want to
Yeah.
be authentic, but you want to be conservative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want your cleavage showing. Don't show up to an interview with jeans on. Make sure you look the part for the job that you want, right?
Yeah. And I think I said this to somebody one time, like, because people are like, well, I gotta be me, I gotta keep it real.
Yeah.
And, my thing is, and I think that we're losing this kind of at this point in society, there's certain attire for certain occasions.
That's true. You
You know
hit
what
it
I'm
on the
saying? Like
nail. That's true.
I would not
Yeah,
wear a bathing suit to a wedding,
yeah, yeah,
the same
exactly.
way I'm not gonna
Exactly.
wear a evening gown to brunch, like that.
Exactly.
It is
Yeah.
certain attire for an occasion. Now,
Hmm.
within that realm of that attire, I might, pick a super conservative, blue pinstripe power suit, and you might pick hot pink tailored suit. You know what I'm saying? But it's in that genre of
Right. In
clothing.
that genre. That is so true. I love that
But
you
I
said
think
that.
that people, like, you used to be able to see people walk down the street and know or be able to guess where they were going based on how they're dressed. And
Hmm.
now it's just kind of like anything go. And I'm like, are you going to the club right now? Or
Yeah. And I think we're living in a time, in a society where we've become so liberal where anything goes.
yeah,
There's a standard to living. Christ has a standard. You know what I
yes,
mean? And
yes,
just like every occasion you go to have a standard.
yes, yes. And I think that, you can be you. You can
You can be
still be
you.
you
Exactly. You can still be
in
you.
that realm, but it's kind of like if you think about a department store, you got to shop in the right section. You could be you,
Exactly.
but you got to
It be
pick
you.
something out of this
Exactly.
section.
Right.
This is the suiting section. You got to pick
Right.
something out of that
Right.
section, and you can pick whatever you want, but
Hmm.
it needs to be out of that section. So I think a lot of times, and even as business owners, because I don't want y'all to think that y'all are off the hook when you show up.
Exactly.
Yeah, you work for yourself. I love to be in my pajamas. I'm in them now, but I don't I don't go to the job in my pajamas. I don't
Exactly.
meet clients in my pajamas. And I'm gonna even do you one further. These are my work pajamas. I have my other pajamas for when I'm just lounging around the house. Those are different pajamas.
Yeah.
So I even make that distinction. But knowing that you can be you, you don't have to be
Hmm.
somebody else because you're not gonna show up right, when
Hmm.
you suited and booted looking like somebody else and you look like you in your mama suit
Yeah.
because it's not your style, right?
Yeah.
Bring your style to it, but be appropriate.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, ask someone.
Hmm. Yeah. Something you said I want to speak to entrepreneurs because you did mention entrepreneurship. Just because you're an entrepreneur don't mean you need to show up somewhere in jeans and a t-shirt or pajamas or like you just woke up. Being an entrepreneur, you have to constantly network. You're constantly meeting people. You can meet people in the grocery store, in the bathroom, on the street, but you need to show up. I cannot tell you how many times in the past I was a broke entrepreneur. But because when I went to an event or went somewhere, I looked appropriate. I dressed myself up for where I was going. And guess what? I got opportunities. People wanted to shake my hand and know who I was. I had $0 in my bank account, but people were still intrigued to know, okay, who is Shadana and what does she do?
Right.
And shook my hand. And then I exchanged business cards. And then it was an opportunity from there. So just because you're an entrepreneur and a business owner don't mean that you could just show up how you want to, right? We talked about be authentic, but be appropriate. You talked about don't wear your mother's suit. Of course, don't wear your mother's suit, but be authentic, but dress for the occasion. Be comfortable. I'll
Absolutely.
say that.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, I tell this to my balloon clients. When I go to a job where where I'm setting up, we have a uniform. We have a polo shirt.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a more casual environment, then we may put jeans with that, but nice jeans, no holes, no, not super tight, none of that. If it's a casual venue, if it is a country club, if it is a high-end venue, we
Mm-hmm.
are wearing slacks.
Right.
That is what we're wearing because I'm not wearing anything in there that their clientele could not wear in there. So that's the standard. But if I go meet a event planner, if I go meet a client for a site visit, if I go to a venue visit, I dress in business attire because when I'm setting up, I'm an employee of the company.
Wow.
When I
Yeah.
go and meet a client, I am the CEO of the company, and I dress
Hmm.
accordingly because not only, because some people may think it's, silly for us to be sitting here talking about dress and it doesn't matter and what it's, you
It
mentioned you have
matters.
a psychology degree, so do I. It's psychological.
Psychological.
It
It's
it
psychological.
shows that you are respecting the space that you're in
That's
and
true.
respecting the role that you play in that space.
Hmm.
Also, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, especially as creative entrepreneurs, we struggle with considering ourselves on the same level. Like the lady said, I don't you normally say that out loud that I'm a glass blower. So we don't feel sometimes that we're on that same level. So it's not just for that other person to see us that way, it's also for ourselves to see us that way because you're not the help. You are another business owner. You're two business owners having a transaction.
Hmm.
And so it's giving it reverence. It's giving the situation its proper reverence.
Yeah. And something I always tell my clients, like you said, psychological, I say we live in an image driven world. How people perceive you matters to a certain extent. If you say you are a hairstylist and your hair is looking a mess, how are you going to get clients?
Correct.
I identify someone as a stylist in the fashion industry, right? Because I style people as a part of my coaching. I need to be looking the part.
Right.
So yes, we do. That's something that entrepreneurs definitely need to keep in mind. We live in an image-driven world, right? Dress for the person that you desire to be. Like dress for the occasion, like you said. It's
Yes.
important.
And when you said that, it made me think of like, when people say about food and like how you plate food, you eat with your eyes first.
Right.
People, let's turn eat into greet. You greet with your eyes first. You see that person, and we all have been there. You see somebody, you don't mean to, but you make assumptions about people from how you see them. When we
Yeah.
wear our uniforms, when we're in like, hotel spaces and venues in our uniforms, the guests of the hotel will come walk up to us and ask us questions
Yeah.
because we're in a uniform, so they believe that you are working here and you belong here,
Hmm.
because of how we're dressed. And I'm like, well, I think the bathroom is done. I'm
I
not
love that. I
100%
love that.
sure, but you fit, it makes you fit more into the space. But again, fit in does not mean leave yourself behind. It just
Hmm.
means that you are letting other people know you understand where you are.
I just want to share one more thing before you moved on. I like how you said that you have an attire for your balloon business, you and your staff. That also means that you're referral ready. If
Yes.
somebody refer your balloon business, they know that when they refer you, when you go to your next site or your next client, you're gonna show up and dress the part, right?
Right.
They know you're gonna be looking the part. You're not just gonna come, show up, put the balloons on site any kind of way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sets a standard.
It sets a standard,
It sets a standard. And especially a lot of times, like you said, referral ready. The thing is that when somebody refers you, they I take my name seriously.
right?
So if I refer somebody, like, I have vetted that person, and
Right,
you don't want to disrespect that referral. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that person put you out there, and
right.
you want to be in a position that a person feels comfortable
Hmm.
putting you out there because they know what they're putting their stamp on.
That's
So,
true.
yeah, I really do love
Yeah,
that. I really, really love that.
yeah.
So, what are some tips that you can give to help people walk more confidently in themselves in these situations that we've all been in situations where we're like, I just don't feel like I belong here.
Hmm. A few things. Confidence means to be sure of yourself. Earlier, we talked about those affirmations. So I would say definitely start with your affirmations. Your words have power. What you say about yourself have power. So put together a list of affirmations and speak that over yourself every single day. In the morning, sometimes it takes 3 times a day, but speak that over yourself. And when you walk into a room, dress presentable. Like if you're going to a networking event, make sure you look the part. What I always do, I have something that stands out. I always wear red lipstick, which I'm wearing now, or I'll wear some cute boots, something where somebody can remember me by.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they may not remember my name because when you go to a networking event, you're constantly meeting people, but they have something to remember you by. The pink purse, the red lipstick, I'm sorry, the red boots, or whatever it is. So walking with your head high, dress the part, and speak those affirmations over your life. Like continue to speak affirmations over your life because it's important.
And I want to just, add to that what you said about the affirmations. I've been challenging people lately. Make sure that those affirmations are meaningful to you.
That's true. Mhm.
Because sometimes we just pick up affirmations and it's like, but that ain't the thing that you're struggling with.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that. Yeah, and I'm
like,
glad you spoke to that because that's
like
that's that's true.
find an affirmation that speaks to the thing that you are really struggling with because you need to hear that. Like I guess I said that sometimes we like to phone it in. I can't go take your affirmations. That might not have anything to do with what is
Exactly.
needing what I'm needing internally.
Hmm.
So look for affirmations to speak to those things. Like if specifically you don't feel like you belong, then find an affirmation that speaks to that for you as
Hmm.
opposed to just, I look good. I
Hmm.
look
Yeah,
fly.
yeah, yeah.
Like that might not be the thing that you're struggling with. The thing that you're struggling with may be worth. It may
Right.
be
It's true.
that. So,
Hmm.
look for those things to speak into your soul what you need to hear. And then that kind of goes just back to what we were talking about before, but you got to be honest.
You got to be honest. Yeah, you got to be honest.
You have to be honest.
And one thing I'll share before you move on, be willing to take a chance on yourself,
Mm,
whatever that looks like. Growing up, my dad always taught me the person that never took a chance never had a chance. So
mm,
if you were in the beauty industry, you're a beauty entrepreneur, you want to have a partnership with L'Oreal, go on LinkedIn, find a CEO, find somebody in marketing, PR, add that person. When they accept you, send them a message. You just
mm-hmm.
never know. The only thing people can say is no. That helps build your confidence. You're going to get a lot of no's, but that one yes is going to allow you to keep going.
Yes. I love that. I love that because we tend to think, but we tend to think more than we act. Like,
Yes,
not
that's
saying
true.
that
We
we shouldn't think,
overthink, but we
but
overthink
we
and we think
overthink.
so
We
much.
sit in it. We
We
sit
sit in it.
in
Yeah.
you've been thinking about this thing you want to do for the last 10 years and
Yeah.
we ain't seen nary a output yet. Take a
Mhm.
step.
Take a
You
step.
have to start taking action and taking bold action
Mhm.
to move yourself forward
Yeah.
because as long as it's just all in your head, you're not
Mhm.
moving,
You're not moving.
and
Yeah.
nobody can help you on that journey because they don't even know you on that journey.
That's true. A few other things I want to share. Uh, you talked about moving ahead. If you're an entrepreneur, you're an engineer, and it's been on your mind to get another certification or a certification in engineering that's going to help you prepare forward, get that certification. And I always tell entrepreneurs, always focus on continued learning,
Yes,
whether it's
yes,
certifications, taking classes, online courses, because you always want to be on your toes in your industry. You always want to be knowledgeable. So if somebody talking to you, you know your stuff. That helps build confidence in who you are and what you're talking about. oh, Shadana know what she's talking about with her career coaching or her confidence coaching. Like she's on it because I'm constantly educating myself, whether that's taking classes, reading, whatever it is. Be a continued learner as an entrepreneur because the world in your industry is always changing.
Absolutely. But I'm gonna add a
Yeah,
caveat to that.
go ahead.
Act upon what you learn.
That's true. Yes, I love that.
Act upon what you learn, because what happens a lot of times is we have these habitual learners,
Yeah, that's true.
and you got all this stuff in your brain
Yeah.
and you haven't implemented it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of getting the education, is
Hmm.
so that you can use it to further. So make
Right.
sure you're using it, because like I had a friend of mine, we would go to this conference together every year. And one day we were just chatting. This was like during COVID. We were talking about something. And she said, "Yeah, but every time you always do something with the information." And she said that like I was weird. And I'm like, "Well, I'm not about to spend $2,000 to go to this conference and it not come back and benefit my business." Like, I totally agree with you. I feel like the more knowledgeable you are, the more confident you are, because you know your stuff. Like, if somebody told you get up in front of an audience and speak about baking a cake, you probably be like, "What?" Because that's not your area of expertise. But if somebody said, "Get up in front of this audience right now," you had no preparation, get up there and speak about confidence, you could get up there and confidently speak because that is your area. So it definitely builds confidence, but don't use it as a barrier from taking action. Because sometimes we will get caught up in well, I can't do this until I get, no, 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 no. You could do both. You could go ahead and move forward and go sign up for that certification at the exact same time. And watch, lo and behold, when you finish that certification, there's going to be an opportunity sitting there waiting for you, because you're constantly in motion and action. So pair education with action.
I agree. That's important that you said that because some people get into information overload.
Oh,
They have
yes.
all this information and they don't do nothing with it. They're overloaded with it and they're not taking action. So I love that you talked about get the information, but implement it in your business and whatever you're doing. That is so important because
Yeah.
that's going to help out down the line.
Yeah, totally. Um, what are I mean, I didn't know if you had other tips, because I know I cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted
No,
to.
you fine. I like that. We talked about, always continuing your education and whatever you're doing in your industry and just implementing, like taking action. That's important because that's going to help you establish relationships, build partnerships, and that's going to help further your business down the line by taking action.
Absolutely. And so we talked a lot about, like the belonging. I want to talk a little bit before we wrap up, a little bit about like walking in your purpose and like why that's so important. Because I think, I know for me, my goal is to, pull people from grind culture. And part of that is because a lot of people really are not walking in their purpose. They're really just doing what they are told they're supposed to do. You're supposed to, go to school, and then after school you're supposed to, get a good job, and then you got the husband, the kids, this, to that. Everybody's life is pre-scripted by society, but what about your purpose?
I'm so glad that you said that, but I'm going to be transparent with you. Our purpose comes from God,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yes.
When I graduated, I was working full time. I was doing my entrepreneur thing. I thought I had it going on. I didn't. I was on everybody's calendar. I had so many events that I had to attend, but it was a part of me that still felt empty and still felt that I hadn't accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. it honestly wasn't until I started seeking Christ and
Mhm.
building my relationship with God that my purpose came. I got my background, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. And then when I graduated, I was like, I don't want to do psychology. People got too many problems. So I went back to school.
Was you in the same mindset as me?
I said, people got too many problems. I said, I'm not gonna do this. Went back to school, got my master's degree, was working full time, working on my master's degree. Then I'm in the workplace full time, and I'm like, I don't want to be stuck here. I'm like, so many people get settled. They thinking
Mhm.
about their government benefits, when they gonna retire. I was like, I'm too young for this. So I quit my job. I was very free spirited then. Quit my job. I studied abroad in Spain,
Oh,
got
wow.
inspired by European fashion, got inspired by the lifestyle, like seeing people take naps, seeing people value life more than work.
Yes,
It
yes,
shifted my perspective and
yes.
changed my mindset. So when I came back to the US, I was a totally different person. And so started going through the motions of life. But when I started seeking Christ, I always want to go back to Christ. When I started seeking Christ and building my relationship with Him, my purpose came. Because when I came back from Spain, I was doing the fashion industry and doing the business. And God reminded me, He said, you can make these women look beautiful on the outside, but they really need to be empowered on the inside. He
Mm,
reminded me about my degree in psychology. It came back full circle. So it was like the Holy Spirit kept putting it on my heart. You need to coach, you need to coach, you need to coach women until finally I just gave in and I started mentoring women. I didn't start off coaching right off the bat. I
mhm.
started mentoring women, started seeing the fruit of that. And then I started coaching, I started charging people, and people that I mentor actually had become clients. So that's kind of full circle how it came back around. And that's how I really got into coaching. It was really led by the Lord. And now when people ask me what I do, I'm so clear about what I do, about my purpose. Before I was
Mhm.
never clear. I was doing a lot of stuff, had a lot of waves here and there, accomplished many, many things, but none of that brought me as much happiness as I am now because I
Yeah,
know my purpose. I found my purpose. And so if you're looking to really walk in your purpose and find purpose, it really comes from building your relationship with Christ. And I don't know how much I can emphasize that. I mean, I could tell you because now we living in a time where the universe is everything. The
yeah,
universe could do this for you. The universe cannot do nothing. Walk, speak, talk. If we have a thunderstorm, we just had a thunderstorm in New Orleans a few days ago that came from the man above, right? When he
yeah,
decide he want to make it rain, when he decide he want to make the sun shine, he does. So it's the God of the universe that does stuff. And when
yeah,
you know who you are and whose you are very clear about your purpose and you can walk into it.
yeah. I totally agree with that. I feel like I'm like, okay, I'm connecting all the dots of like the things that you say that I'm like, okay, yeah, I did that, did that. So, yeah, I thought I once I thought realized that psychology was just listening to people problems all the time, I was like, oh Jesus, no.
Yeah.
And but the other thing that you said that like stuck out to me, and I want to, if you haven't traveled abroad, I highly encourage it because it is something mind blowing when you see how other nations live. Cause they done sold us a bag of goods. This the biggest scam running here. They have sold us a bag of goods. People over there drinking wine in the middle of the day, having them a good old time, enjoying their families, healthy, enjoying food. They living.
Hmm.
And we doing something over here. I don't know what it is, but it's not that.
Yeah.
Like it really does change your perspective on just life, and being fulfilled.
Yeah.
Um, the purpose piece, yes, like the closer I get to God, the closer I get to purpose, and I know where to go when I start to feel unsettled or confused
Mhm.
or whatever, I know I just we gotta sit down and have a conversation. Okay, let's start over. I got in the way again. What if
Yeah,
tell it to me over.
right, right. I love that. I
I'ma
love that.
listen
Yeah.
and I'ma try to just go. You said go one step, two step. Okay, all right. When I get to three step, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna come back to you and
Mhm.
find out what step three is instead of just
Yeah,
trying to figure out step three for myself because I
right.
think I'm doing something.
Mhm.
So I totally, agree with that as well. It's just bringing that purpose in and just staying centered in that. And sometimes we struggle with that because sometimes that involves some self work that we not trying to
Do.
deal with
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sometimes we the problem and we have to be in a space to be open to hearing that and dealing with that. But I think I know for me, I was actually having a conversation last night with some of my coaching sisters, and in that conversation we were just talking about 5-year plan and this that and the other, and I said I have given up on the whole 5-year plan because I mean, why am I sitting here wasting my time writing this up when he gonna say go this way?
Mhm.
Tomorrow he might say something totally radically different that I was not thinking in my mind. I can't lean on my understanding. So, I just keep staying prepared on the path that he has created for me and knowing that it's going to unlock the way it's supposed to unlock.
Yeah.
So being in tune with that, but in being in tune with that, what I've noticed, just observed of myself, is being comfortable in situations that I wasn't comfortable in the past. Because again, bringing it back around to that confidence, I know who got me. And so if I know that, then I have no worries of how I show up in a space. I have no worries of if somebody puts me on a spot because I know that, as long as I'm being true to what he wants from me, it's going to all go
Mhm.
according to plan.
Mhm.
And I've even I think I shared this with you when we talked before I do anything, especially in the realm of coaching, before I do anything, I sit down and pray. I sit down and say, God,
Mhm.
guide me to say what needs to be heard. And at that point, it don't have nothing to do with me or my
Mhm.
shortcomings or, I can't mess it up because I'm just a
Mhm.
messenger of him.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, you said a whole mouthful. And one thing that came to mind as you were talking, and we talked about purpose. If you don't know your purpose, you don't know God. And I'm gonna put it as plain as that. If you don't know your purpose, you don't know God because your purpose comes from the Father in heaven. And it's a journey. You talked about that a little bit. It is a journey. It is a journey of patience, of waiting on God, and it is a journey of just waiting in general.
Mm-hmm.
God is going to order your steps. He's going to guide you, but He is going to give you one piece at a time. He is not going to
Mm-hmm.
give you the map all at once.
Nope.
So if you looking for the whole map, honey, just shut it down right now because He not
Mm-mm.
going. That's
And
not
that
how He
and look,
operates.
and I'm gonna be transparent. That's
Yeah,
me. I'm like, sir, can I get a copy of the agenda? Or
exactly.
no, no, okay. I'm gonna just sit here and just wait. Okay,
Right.
I'm gonna
Just
wait.
give me the whole Google Maps. That he
Like,
literally gonna tell
no,
you when you supposed to take the right turn, when you supposed to exit the highway, is one instruction at
at a
a
time.
time.
Yes.
And so I do encourage entrepreneurs as you get to know God and build your relationship and your faith in Him and knowing that He is gonna order your steps in your business, wait on Him.
Mm-hmm.
Wait on Him because I'm just getting to a place where I feel like I can breathe. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I had to learn, like putting my faith in God as an entrepreneur. It was a waiting process.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
sometimes we pray for things and we're waiting and we don't get it. That's because God is crushing us, He's pruning us, He's preparing us. Say, for instance, you're waiting on marriage. Let's just take the entrepreneurship out of it. You're waiting on marriage. And you're like, God, I've been praying, but I don't see my husband. God is like, I need to work on your attitude.
Right.
God is like,
I need to correct you.
I need to correct you because you're gonna be divorced before you marry. Because that man is not gonna deal with your
Yes,
attitude. You know what I
yes,
mean? So just know that God is plucking things out of you, and the plucking process does not feel good. But I can honestly say someone who has waited on God and who are finally seeing the fruits of my labor is worth it. Because it's things that God needs to course correct before he bring you into this destiny that
yes,
he wants you to fulfill. So
yes, yes, yes. I know for me in this season, and I feel like God is trying to show me how to deal with uncomfortable. Cause he's like, you've been comfortable for a while,
yeah.
but we about to go on a different journey.
Right,
And
right, right.
so he's been showing me how to, and I think that that's where your faith comes
Mm,
in the sense of there's a version of me that, especially like toward the end of last year was just changes, it's just
mhm,
all kind of changes. There's a version of me, and at the beginning of that journey, there was a
mhm,
version of me
mhm,
that was really uncomfortable
mhm,
with that change, and like, what is happening, what's going on, why,
mhm,
and as I've been when I took a step back and said, Danielle, just sit. He needs to know that you're going to be faithful,
mhm,
and faithful is not just in the good times.
mhm.
Faithful is in uncertainty. That's when it comes in,
Yeah,
and that's when we detach,
yeah.
when it's time for us to actually exercise faith. And
Mhm,
so it's when, you in the storms that
mhm.
he wants you to, my grandmother used to be a huge James Cleveland fan. And
Okay.
he has that song, Peace Be Still. And um it's when everything is raging, and they like the winds is raging, and Jesus was asleep because he got
Mhm.
faith.
Yeah.
So even in the storm, he already know who his father is. He's not concerned. And so I think that that's a big part of it too, is that in life, in entrepreneurship, and all of it, we gonna come through spaces
Mhm,
where it look like the world is turning upside down. But in those spaces, we have to lean into that faith. And if we don't, we just really just gonna go back to the drawing board, and then you're gonna have to come back around to it, again in the future. But it's learning how to be settled in the uncertainty, like learning that although logically it makes no sense, I know who is in charge. So I
mhm,
still have to be at peace,
mhm.
because this too shall pass. It's just that reality. But man, that ain't that, look, I ain't gonna play like that's an easy reality.
It's not easy. And I'm gonna just share one thing because you got me thinking. You talked about being uncomfortable in a previous season. I was in church and it hit me. And the pastor said, your calling isn't comfortable. He said, if you are uncomfortable, you are walking in your calling. And that really, really spoke to me. And I remember when I first started coaching about 3 years ago, God told me to do it. I started doing it. I was fired up. I enjoyed it. But I was not making the money that I needed to make. I was
Hmm.
not making enough money to sustain myself. So then I hit it full force once again, was doing everything in my power, was not retaining enough clientele to really just live, right? And so I stopped it. I got discouraged. And just within the past year, God said, do it again. He said, reboot. I'm doing something new. And I was dragging my feet. I'm like, Lord, I'm not trying to. I was dragging my feet. I said, Lord, I'm not trying to do this. I did this before, and you remember what happened, right?
Right.
But this time when I did it around, it worked. This time I started getting clients. This time I started meeting the right people. This time he was sending those destiny helpers. And even on my hard days, because I had them, I had people praying for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a community. So that's the difference. Like the Bible teaches us we were not made to live alone, but to live in community. So even when you're going through that hard time, having that prayer sister or that prayer brother who can intercede on your behalf and pray for you, right?
Yes.
Or who can
Yes.
support you and lift you up. So I think like I just wanted to share that's important.
No, absolutely. Like I'm a big believer of community.
Mm-hmm.
And you need community. It's like, we want to say we the big bad wolf and we could do it all by ourselves, but that's not true. That's not reality. And
Right,
like you said, we all are going to have those moments where we down. And when you build that community and you build that strong community, there's always going to be somebody to remind you of yourself. That's how I refer
right,
to it.
right.
When you're like, oh, well, I don't know. And I'm like, you remember that time you did
Yeah,
this, and this?
exactly.
We about to get up. We about to do this. This is going to
Right.
happen. You need that cheerleading squad that's going to be there to support you on those down days. Cause I mean, everybody could celebrate with you on a good day,
Mm-hmm.
but it's on that day when you ready to quit
Right.
that you need that support. And then I'm sorry to y'all that's not on this guide train. I'm sorry y'all, but we got to go where God leads us.
Yeah,
My thing too is when create that space, God also shows up in that way
he
because
does.
I've had the same experience with coaching. um I had the nudge, and I was like, no. And then he was like, yes. And I was like,
Yeah.
no.
Not right, right.
And, we've gone back and forth for a while. He let me play like I, had some say in it. But the times when when I was like in it, but then I was like, I don't know, he always has sent me something or someone that remind me what the purpose is,
Mm-hmm.
what, why I have you doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's sitting that person and I ugly cried and I have to get back, in the trenches, but it's just that reminder. And one of the things that I've, implemented like with my clients is do something in your purpose every single day.
That's important.
Because
Yeah.
when we're in that purpose, if it's truly your purpose, it's one of those if you know type of things. If you don't
Yeah.
know, keep looking.
Right.
But if you know, when you in that purpose work, you feel totally different as a person in that work. You're energized in a way that don't even make sense.
Yeah.
There have been times that I was like sick as a dog and I had a call scheduled or whatever scheduled. And for that, however long that I was teaching, preaching, or whatever I was doing, I didn't feel not an ounce of pain.
You're also more confident in what you're doing too, going back to that confidence piece.
Yes, yes.
When it's purpose driven, you're confident in what you're not nervous or anything.
No, you just get up there and
It's
just
natural.
go. It flows from you naturally. And so sometimes when we allow ourselves to remove ourselves from our purpose work,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes there's fear associated with that as well. Because when we see glimpses of the bigness of it, sometimes
Yeah.
there's a fear. When you detach from that purpose work, it's kind of like when you go to the gym. You feel good every time you leave the gym, but
Right.
let you skip a few days and see how hard it is for you to get up and go back.
Right.
And so that's why I say do a little bit in your purpose work every day. It might just be drafting an email where you're sharing something about your
Mm-hmm.
purpose work, or we're sitting here, doing this podcast. It
Mm-hmm.
could be, reaching out to a client, but whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that keeps you
Right.
constantly engaged in that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love that.
But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up because I know we could go on and on and on and on. All right, so I'm gonna ask you these are the standard questions I ask every guest, just a little, fun to get to know the guest. So tell me about your favorite pair of pajamas.
Initially, my favorite pair of pajamas, I'm kind of a t-shirt and panty type girl. I can sleep in my t-shirt and panties and just be so comfortable. But I'm getting more into silk, and I believe
Okay,
I'm preparing myself for a marriage. So lingerie and
okay,
silk and lingerie, sexy stuff.
I got you. Yes, 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 and yes. Look, I go the gambit. I could go from some of
Mm-hmm.
my husband's holy t-shirts all the
Yes.
way up to the
Yeah.
other. If every guest has said their favorite, and I find everyone to be my favorite. So
Oh, really?
I love pajamas. I absolutely love pajamas. That's usually my Mother's Day gift is
Oh, wow. I love that.
I
Yeah.
want to I tell them I want boiled crawfish and a new pair of pajamas,
It
and
never get
everybody
old.
leave me alone.
Right. It never get old.
That's it. Okay, so my time freedom allows me to.
My time freedom allows me to do other things that I'm passionate about. So I do volunteer work often. Sometimes I work with Dress for Success New Orleans and
Oh,
volunteer with
awesome.
them. And it also allows me to continue walking in my purpose, like doing the work that I'm doing with coaching. That's allows me to have more of a flexible schedule when
Mm-hmm.
I'm meeting with clients or different schools. So my time freedom allows me to really just be free and have a flexible schedule. And that's the only thing now that I've literally desired for the past 7 years was freedom and flexibility in my
Awesome.
schedule.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you can give someone seeking a profits and pajamas lifestyle?
Ooh, the best advice that I can give someone would probably be to seek your purpose first. Like
Mhm.
find out what your purpose is, and whatever your purpose is, you can walk in that passionately. Because I have 2 degrees. I can easily get a job, high paying job, management job, this, but I won't be happy on those jobs. I've
Mm,
tried it. But when you walking in purpose, no matter how much income you bring in each month, I'm constantly happy. And
yes.
when I look at my life compared to family members, friends who have these big time jobs, I'm a lot more happier, right?
Mhm.
Because when you walking in purpose, so find your purpose and you're gonna be happy in that. Because they say it's like when you find your purpose, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
always say don't worry about the money gonna come. It was a
Right.
long time where I didn't have the money. Like I recently, y'all, just started making money in my purpose. So that's why I do encourage you to be patient in finding
Mhm.
your purpose. Let God order your steps, and then the rest is going to come. The Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added unto you. So continue to seek the kingdom of heaven, and God is going to add everything. It's nothing for God to put $1 million in your bank account tomorrow. It's nothing for God to make you have a supernatural blow up like a Tabitha Brown or something. Like her
Mhm.
success came over. It's nothing for God. But
Right.
he's like, seek me first, and then you're gonna have the happiest lifestyle ever.
Right. And
And then you can be in your pajamas.
yeah, yes, I love that because I start clients with understanding that your success story is personal.
Yes. It's
And I think
personal.
that we really look at it like whatever the industry standard, whatever industry we're in, or whatever societal standards, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what is best for you. Some people
Mhm.
say, if I say, well, what do you want the business to look like? Well, I want to make $1 million. Why?
Yeah.
We get caught up on like these superficial things, but is that $1 million gonna make you happy? Because I could help you make a pathway to 1 million, but is what you really want to spend time with your family? Is what you really want this?
Right.
Get to what you really want. Like you said, get to your passion and everything else will fall in line.
Everything else fall in line.
And I tell people all the time, look, the lights ain't got cut off yet. I'd rather be happy and have a different financial goal than to have this like, high financial goal. Not to say, God could do all things, but to have this high financial goal and then be miserable. Because,
Mhm.
I love what you said about having, those degrees. You could go and work anywhere and make that money, but let's live a life.
Will I truly be happy though? That's the
Right.
thing. Because you can make $1 million, but it's a lot of millionaires who are unhappy,
Who are
right?
unhappy. That's what I'm saying. Like, let's live a life. Let's
You,
focus on a
hmm
life, not just hitting these milestones. Because once you hit
Yep.
them, then what?
Yep, a happy lifestyle, a joyful lifestyle. And everyone has a testimony, right?
Mm-hmm.
We like you talked about, our journey is a part of our personal story. So we all have a testimony as to how we got from A to B to Z to X in this. But a part of having a testimony is going through a test.
That
Test is
part.
the key word in this. So in order you want to share your testimony, right? But you got to go through that test. And
Yes.
once you pass that test and make it out, go ahead and share your testimony.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I just love that, like that change of perspective about what success looks like. Because success does not have to be
Mm,
based on metrics.
that's true.
It's based on building a life that you're happy with.
That's
Because
what it is.
like during COVID, when events, were shut down and stuff, and I had all these people, and I knew they were well meaning, sending me, job listings and this, that, and the other. And I was like,
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good, friend. I'm good. Like I I've seen the other side and
Mm,
I'm happier here. And
yeah.
so I rather, be happy with $5 in my pocket than be miserable with 1 million.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah. I love
reality.
that. Yeah.
Um so I want to give you an opportunity before we wrap up completely to share anything that you have going on that you want the audience to be a part of, or how they can get in contact with you, or any just last thoughts that you want to share.
Just always want to share my brand. It's called Influential Life. It's centered around faith, fashion, and fulfillment. I help people build their faith in God so that they can become closer to Him. I help you look the part, professional etiquette, and dress for the workplace. I work as a stylist, and then I help you become more fulfilled. And I do that through my coaching services because we all looking to be fulfilled in life. And so if you want to learn more, you can just go to my website, influential-life.com. That's influential-life.com. Or just follow me on social media at Influential Petite.
Okay.
That's at Influential Petite.
Okay, and I will put all of that in the show notes so you guys can stay in touch. I just want to thank you for coming on and having this conversation with me. I'm sure we will probably be back because I mean there's so much left that we could talk about, but I appreciate you being here and helping us find purpose, and knowing, that we can walk confidently in a space.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time here. This was a wonderful conversation. It just flowed so naturally. I love how we were able to both keep Christ at the center and talk about our faith, but also talk about other things that entrepreneurs could relate to. So thank you for having me on.
All right, you guys. That is it for this episode. I will put all the contact information in the show notes, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with ease. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram. For more information about building your luxury brand, register for my upcoming luxury brand workshop at CoachDannyD.com.